Hello and welcome back. Today we are going to be doing a rundown of Dev Diary 84. This covers the new mechanic of the coups, as well as just entirely French localization and flavor. We'll be talking about coups first. This is kind of the mechanical introduction of this Dev Diary, but other than that, it's mostly local flavor. So if you just want to talk about mechanics or just think about mechanics, you're not interested in playing France or doing anything with France, just stick by for the coups, and then we'll be into it. So I kind of prepared a video that I thought was a little bit amusing to kind of intro the coups, and that is a little clip from the death of Stalin. So to just set the stage, if you want to stage a coup in your games, now you can do it. So I think the idea is that it's not a full-blown revolution, but it's instead something that's internal to the government where they're overthrowing it, and this is perhaps a good way to think about it. The revolution is like a popular revolt. The coup is kind of more an internal thing, and it is an event chain that gets triggered when you have an unhappy government. Introduces a new journal entry that allows an unhappy government interest group to seize power and institute a new mode of rule. A coup can happen when your ruling interest group is powerful, has negative approval, and fundamentally opposes your democracy or whatever you happen to have in charge. It takes several months, and you could either support or resist the coup. It's an event chain. It gains progress. You can gain progress by, making people more mad, and you can, the coup will simply fizzle out if the progress bar is depleted or if the interest group no longer supports the law that they're trying to institute. And so this gives, the player a little bit more agency in regard to, what they might be able to do in trying to reform the government, which I think is pretty neat, because we're getting both the agitators to help reform the government, the coups, and you also have the standard revolution and just the standard passing laws, man. The normal way of doing things, instead of having, little General Zhukov coming in and punching Beryov in the face, or Beria. So this seems pretty neat, and it will add a little bit of flavor. And also, when you have what you want in place, but you're making people mad, you can trigger the coup event, and this will give you additional challenges that punishes you for not just that punishes you for making people upset. Currently, right now in the mid to late late game, you don't really care too much or really do anything with the government because you got all the laws you want in place, and so it's mainly just about massaging approval. Now, hopefully, there's a little bit more texture in regards to the gameplay as a result of the coup being in place. So while a coup is ongoing, events related to it will intermittently appear, allowing the player a chance to either spread along the death of their current government or fight against it, etc. And so this is the idea. The instigators will remain powerful and angry long enough they will be able to execute their coup against the government and institute their desired laws. So, important to note, your laws get in right away. These laws can vary, with the default coup simply being installing an autocracy, with the coupists generally favored. However, ideological coups are also possible and are generally related to government's principles, with powerful monarchist interest groups within the government being able to launch a coup for a monarchy, or powerful Republicans doing the opposite to a monarchical government. Man, I can't pronounce that word. A coup to change government principles will, by default, instate either the oligarchy or single-party state as appropriate rather than autocracy. So it doesn't look like you can liberalize through coups as much, but again, you can with going Republican, but you can't have a maybe there is one for a council republic, but we'll see. Okay, so next up we have the natural borders of France. They've changed a few things for various ideas. They extend more eastward in terms of, or this is part of one of the nationalist ideas of the era. There's kind of event chain for this, for you to push eastward. It will make Prussia mad. They don't like it. And this is kind of adds a little bit more flavor. Here's the full borders. Okay. Your southward expansion, however, will not need to be won by force. The Treaty of Turin decision is available to France if there are strong enough relations and an obligation from the owner of Savoy. You might, for example, benevolently help out Sardinia-Piedmont in their quest to unify Italy or expel Austrians from the peninsula. If this country also happens to own Nice, they'll throw that in as part of the bargain, and you can see we, of course, big Nice. We, of course, have borders that are a little bit more southward. And so this is kind of neat. We also have this huge, push into here, which Prussia is not a fan of, which might need to be, I'm assuming this is needs you need to get this militarily. But this adds a little bit of a flavorful expansion plan. I imagine this still takes a lot of infamy, and so probably isn't the smartest play, but maybe it's also just like, you're pushed in that direction, it's fun, it's interesting, it's flavorful, this type of thing. And okay, should France succeed in achieving these natural borders, the map of the region will look something like this. Have a further look at the changes we made to state regions of France, but you'll notice that in order to achieve a truly aesthetic France, we split up the northern Rhine so that the border matches the river. Big nice. So that's the Rhine, I think. Geography is not my thing. Maybe this is the Rhine. I shouldn't have said anything about knowing where the rivers were, but it does look like stuff is split along rivers in a way that is relatively aesthetic. And since we're on the topic of setup changes, I'll also note that we've added 2 cultures to the region, Franco-Provençal, in modern times known as Arpitan, and has homelands in Rhone, Savoy, and Switzerland, and the primary culture of the releasable nation of Savoy. Interesting, so maybe playing as Savoy will be a fun one. And the Almanic culture of the homelands in eastern Switzerland, Baden, and Württemberg. With these additions, we've removed Swiss culture, given Swiss and Almanic group and Franco... given Switzerland both these 2 groups. Okay. Save me from pronouncing some stuff. So, this has been just the writing of the first person who was writing on it. This dev diary is a little bit interesting because it's written by several people, and overall I think that the copy is a little bit better, although this is perhaps not something people care about. Okay. Hello, this is Victoria, also known as Pacifica. That's awesome, her name's Victoria. And I will be covering a section of the new content, including 1.3 Voice of the People. The new immersion pack primarily focuses on France, but also contains content which can apply to other countries or spread to affect other nations. Blah, 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 blah. Mechanically complex content to create scenarios that are both played smoothly and provide a truly unique experience. This includes the Paris Commune, a complex formative event which ties the reworked Revolutions 1.3, a reworked Belle Epoque, journal entry containing nearly 5 times as much flavor, 5 times the flavor as before, and the Pebrine Epidemic, a minor crisis for Europe, which requires the use of several interlocking game systems to resolve. Okay, so we have the Paris Commune. This one's a bit interesting. Looking at some of these pictures, we'll get to it in a second. Okay. Once socialism has been researched, if sufficiently beaten and destabilized, a revolution in France will unleash a tidal wave of proletarian anger in Paris, leading to a major crisis that will threaten the future of the French nation. Or as we like to call it, the Commune. Okay. Molding the crisis as soon as they come into the wish. A player controlling a reactionary France may wish to sabotage the Commune as much as possible in order to see a successful occupation of Paris, while a player who wishes to side with the Commune may embolden it as much as possible so that the National Guard may march on Versailles and seize the power with minimum bloodshed. Advancing the bar as much as possible will allow for the later outcome, whilst reducing it to 0 will lead to the former, as was historical. We love some whilst in there. Strong word. Okay, so there's going to be an event chain. You could try and progress it, etc. Here is one I'm very curious about, because you see that this is, I think, a revolution is brewing, and also, we also have the revolution already separate with the Commune, and I'm wondering if you just lose this chunk of Paris for the duration of the event. This is kind of an interesting idea where that you don't have a full revolution. Instead, you have this event chain revolution where you do not, you can't just march soldiers in and take it. And you just get this event chain, and then eventually you either integrate or you get a full-blown revolution. So in here, they have a little bit of a description. So long as the revolution is not entirely reactionary, it will be able to spur upheavals in Paris that will lead to the establishment of the Commune. This does nothing to explain kind of my curiosity regarding this, although if this is just a tiny revolution, then I'm guessing it will be put down. Okay. Furthermore, while the Commune is active, i.e. while this little section of Paris is rebelled, I guess, maybe, perhaps, not sure, the intermittent fighting between Versailles and Paris will be represented through events, the result of which can either allow for the destruction or triumph for the Commune, the loud car outside. And so we have one of the events. Paris Commune, radically progressive and opposed to the status quo of the conservative government spawns, is not entirely mature when it appears. And this just kind of talks your way through, the event a little bit. You have some event things that fire, which give intergroup political strength, which is nice, especially on the trade unionists and the rural folk. If you can get all these ones are really nice to have, powerful and happy, and so if you could get this and also get loyalists, it's big nice. Okay. If the Paris Commune endures for long enough for a revolution to break out across the country, but does not progress enough to carry out an uncontested march on Versailles, the leaders of the Commune will be able to seize control of the uprising, granting Paris to the revolutionaries and allowing it to create a new France through a conventional civil war. So I assume this is going to be, a big rebellion on the back of this. If this outcome arrives, the player may choose to either play as the French central government or switch over to Paris Commune, decide the future of France on the battlefield. Since your capital is going to rebel in this event chain, it might be the case that you can just build up a ton of military there, and, this is enough to kind of pick the side you want. Or, sorry, this is what you would do if you wanted the Commune to win, more so, I think. And then here they have a full revolution here. A powerful revolution led by radical industrialist intelligentsia and rural folk declares itself for Paris and strikes out against the last remnants of the conservative monarchist government in Breton and Savoy. Or was this Bretagne and Savoy? We see kind of normalish looking borders, maybe. I don't recall if this is further pushed in for France, but this is further pushed in, so maybe it is. But we get the full revolution. The Commune triumphs over the former government. The new France may take many shapes, but whatever it is, blah blah blah, communist. Okay. So we have the Belle Epoque rework, which is tied to the Eiffel Tower, and these are a bunch of journal entries that are related to art and other stuff. Some of them will be available to other countries. I found this sentence really funny. It would be cruel, after all, to deny the joys of roller skating and steam tricycles to cities like St. Petersburg, New York, and Guangzhou. And so this is... all kind of amusing, but more events is going to be nice. We have the Pebrine Epidemic, which is covering Louis Pasteur, who discovered, why all the silkworms were dying. All right, here it is. In the an epidemic of silkworm disease, Pebrine, spread through Europe, devastating the French and Italian silk industries. The identification of the cause of the disease led to the work of Louis Pasteur, and a notable application of the newly developed germ theory. So this will all be really cool. Hopefully this affects the epidemic event chain as well later. This is such a good thing to cover given modern times with the coronavirus and all that stuff. This will give people a feeling of engagement and this sort of stuff, and I think this is really cool, but very short description on this. Then we have the Algeria situation, where they talk about Algeria, chaos, mostly chaos. We have Algeria split up into 3 little countries that are even smaller than Algeria, and let's see. So Algeria received a state makeover. The old state regions lacking any real roots and historical administrative divisions are gone. Instead, we are left with the ones based on mid-19th century departments of Oran, Algiers, and Constantine, which in turn roughly corresponds to the pre-French Bayeux and the Regency of Algiers. And so here we have kind of what the borders will look like before, France comes in. France also notably doesn't border gore the entire top of Algeria anymore. Your goal of any of the players in the Algeria game, whether they be the French or the Algerian defenders, will to be firstly consolidate your rule over Algeria proper. Needless to say, the French are more likely to come out on top, etc. And so now you have a bunch of event chain sort of stuff. I'm looking forward to playing Algeria for a Barbari's Back achievement. I assume it'll be harder now. Last patch, or in this current patch, it looks pretty easy. If you just try and work your way into France's customs union, they won't mess with you. You can expand, and then you can eventually turn on them. Like a little case of Alien, where you're like the parasite within and you're going to crawl your way out of their belly. Okay, we also have the Dreyfus affair, which is miscarriage of justice in modern history, which is a court case that I'm not historically familiar with, and they don't really tell you what it's about in here, so I can't really talk about it. I didn't want to look up what the Dreyfus affair was about, but I assume it's monarchists pitted against Republicans, liberals against conservatives, and devout Catholics against secularists, all attempting to answer the question once and for all: is the country the France of St. Louis or the France of Voltaire? Okay, and then we have Giuseppe Garibaldi. Again, this is all flavor, who's a general that kind of runs around, and if you're not declaring wars, he leaves you for someone else. So he's a general that's like kind of moves around, something like this, and he gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Okay. And then we have French monarchism. There's 3 different monarchies, all with kind of different stuff. And there's also an event chain, for each of them, or like to try and resolve this. There's the Orleanists, which is the they represent the supporters of the Orleans cadet branch of House Bourbon, which came to power in France after the July Revolution, the Legitimists, who maintained the deposed branch of Orleans, and the Bonapartists, who want to keep the Bonaparte line of Napoleon Bonaparte through his brother Louis. So you can kind of choose between this if you want to go monarchy. Monarchy generally doesn't seem that good, and so we'll see, but maybe it's like fun to play through this, establish a monarchy and then get rid of it later, as is kind of normal to do, because monarchy is not too great. Ideological split will remain one of the three. The ideological split will remain until one of the 3 factions successfully cements their hold on power. Notably, during the developers' stream, they were kind of doing some event chains and stuff related to like this question that seemed pretty interesting. And so, okay. It's not an easy task. It will require careful political maneuvering to ensure that your faction remains on top in a notorious politically unstable country. And so I think that this probably highlights some of the agitator mechanic and the fact that you can expel people and like this sort of stuff, where, if it creates some sort of mini game where you're doing like political maneuvering just to make sure the one you want to win wins, I think that this will be a bit of fun, and hopefully that's the case. And I assume that's kind of why they've included agitators in here, because it fits with a lot of what they want to do with France. Okay. Where many, frankly, would rather just do away with all monarchs, whether they're blah, 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 or blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, I still think in terms of best practice for playing well, it will be just getting rid of them. We have some events and this sort of stuff. Strange bedfellows. Notably, we have the Voice of the People stamp, so you can see what it is. And that's all you have for today. Next week, you'll hear from Max, our art director, who will be talking about visual features, including in Voice of the People, such as the Bread Centaur, fancy new paper map, game table, and more. I'm here for the Bread Centaur. This is the only thing I care about. But yeah, quite a bit of flavor. The big one is the Coups for the majority of countries, or the countries that are not France. Although there's, the art-related ones to the Belle Epoque. However that's pronounced, I apologize if I massacred it. And also, let's see, Giuseppe Garibaldi for, roving general. That's like a hero. This will be kind of fun if you can invite him, try and get him, and this is some sort of stuff. Being able to hunt for, like, great people, I think would be just, like, a great fun addition to the game, trying to invite them and this sort of stuff. Currently, there doesn't seem to be a framework for it, but it would be a lot of fun if it was. I think that this sort of thing, also trying to have a government consistent with, like, the people who you're trying to invite in order to, invite them more. I think in Garibaldi's case, they did mention that he is, pro certain types of governments, but it mainly, I think, is the coup is kind of the big mechanic to take home here, that you can, kind of stage a coup and do this sort of thing. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, the YouTube algorithm stuff, and have a good day.